The Manhattan skyline glittered across the East River like a wall of diamonds as the dinner rush peaked at the River Cafe. Harper Collins tightened her apron, drew a quiet breath, and balanced a tray of champagne flutes as she approached the VIP table, his table. Matthew Kingsley, the finance king with a Mont Blanc pen, always clipped to his suit, and arrogance stitched into every breath he took, lounged back in his chair like he owned the view. He didn't look at the menu. He looked at Harper. Slowly. Intentionally. The kind of look meant to unsettle someone already standing on shaking legs. Vanessa Hale, his influencer girlfriend, angled her iPhone toward Harper, recording casually as if humiliation were entertainment. Then Matthew said it. A long, flowing sentence in rapid Italian, too quick and too theatrical to be anything but a performance. His tone was sharp enough to slice the air, dripping with condescension. The surrounding tables grew quiet. A few guests exchanged confused glances. One man snickered. Harper felt the familiar sting, the same sting she'd felt 100 times growing up in a trailer park, where people judged her before she opened her mouth. She knew exactly what Matthew was doing, using a foreign language as a weapon, assuming she was too small, too poor, too uneducated to understand. Vanessa giggled. "Babe, that was savage. She has no idea what you just said." Matthew smirked, swirling his wine. "Of course she doesn't." Harper steadied the tray in her hands. Her heart pounded once, hard, but her voice, when it came, was smooth as glass. "Would you prefer the Amarone from Verona?" she asked, in flawless Italian. "Or should I bring the Brunello you mispronounced?" Vanessa's jaw dropped so fast, her phone tilted out of frame. Matthew's smirk twitched, the first visible crack. A hush spread over the immediate tables. Someone gasped. A Wall Street couple at the next table turned fully around. Harper didn't stop. Switching into English, calm and precise, she continued, "And just so you know, sir, what you said wasn't a wine order. It was an insult, a very old-fashioned one. Should I fetch the manager so you can repeat it?" A soft, shocked ripple traveled through the room. Matthew froze. He hadn't expected a response. He certainly hadn't expected that response. Ethan Brooks, seated quietly 2 tables away, lowered his newspaper. His eyes locked onto Harper with sudden interest Matthew didn't notice. Not yet. Harper bowed her head slightly, professional, but no longer small. "I'll give you a moment to decide your order," she said gently. She turned to leave. But before she took the second step, Matthew spoke again, this time, not in Italian, not in English, but in another language entirely. A test. A challenge. A warning. Harper stopped cold, and the entire restaurant leaned in as she slowly turned back toward him, ready to deliver an answer he would never forget. The room hadn't recovered from Harper's first reply when Matthew launched his second attack. This time, he switched to sharp, clipped German. Faster, harsher. The kind of phrasing meant to corner someone who didn't belong in his world. Harper didn't blink, but the guests around him did. A couple in designer coats paused mid-conversation. A server carrying a tray of oysters nearly stumbled. Even Vanessa, still clutching her iPhone, whispered, "Babe, maybe chill?" Harper's pulse raced, but she forced her breath steady. German wasn't the first foreign language she had learned, just the one she'd learned out of spite, studying in a cold public library while working double shifts. She remembered holding a worn paperback dictionary, thinking one day she'd rise above people who thought she couldn't. So she answered, in perfect measured German, so native, so crisp, that the businessman at the next table raised his eyebrows in disbelief. "Your pronunciation," she added gently, switching back to English, "suggests you haven't practiced in a while. Maybe since college? University of Chicago, right?" The color drained from Matthew's face. "How the hell would you... Your watch?" Harper gestured to the luxury timepiece on his wrist. "It's a limited edition model. They gifted them during your alumni gala last year." Gasps fluttered around the room. Vanessa lowered her phone completely now, suddenly unsure whose side social media would take. Matthew leaned back, stunned into silence, But Ethan Brooks was no longer still. He had set aside his newspaper entirely, tapping a pen against his Mont Blanc notebook with the quiet interest of a man who had just discovered something rare, something valuable. Across the dining room, whispers grew louder. "She's incredible. How many languages does she know? Did she say 5? Harper felt heat rise in her cheeks. Attention was the last thing she wanted, but humiliation, that she refused to swallow again. Just when the moment seemed to settle, Matthew exhaled sharply and muttered under his breath, this time in flawless French. Not mocking, not careless, but venomous, a threat wrapped in grammar. Harper turned slowly, and for a split second she saw it. Not arrogance, but hostility. Something darker. Yet she stood tall. Her reply in French, as elegant as silk, cut through the air like a quiet storm. And that was the moment Ethan pushed his chair back, a decision already forming in his eyes. By the time Harper stepped into the staff hallway, her hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the aftershock of standing her ground. She pressed her palms against the cool metal counter, trying to steady her breath. Behind her, the restaurant buzzed with a rising storm of whispers. She didn't hear the moment the whispering turned into recording, but Vanessa did. Because the influencer, sensing drama worth millions of views, had already uploaded a 15-second clip of Matthew attempting to humiliate Harper, and Harper answering in flawless Italian, German, and French. By the time Harper returned to the dining room with a refill pitcher, phones were quietly pointed in her direction. Not aggressively, almost reverently. She could feel it, a shift in the air, the kind that makes your chest tighten, because you know life has just taken a turn, but you're not sure where the road leads. In the far corner, Ethan Brooks watched with the contemplative stillness of a man used to analyzing markets, people, weaknesses, and talent. He caught Harper's eye for a fleeting second. Not pity, not curiosity, respect. But Matthew? He was unraveling. He leaned forward, knuckles white around his wine glass. "Delete the video," he hissed at Vanessa. Vanessa blinked at him. "It's already at 300,000 views." "Delete it." She chewed her lip. "Baby drama performs. It's good for my brand." That was the crack, the moment Matthew realized he wasn't in control anymore. His arrogance had created a spectacle he couldn't contain. As Harper passed their table, he shot her a glare so sharp it felt like a threat. "You think this means anything? Don't get comfortable. People like you don't win." Harper paused just long enough to meet his eyes, not confrontational, just steady. "I'm not trying to win," she said softly. "Just trying to work." But Matthew's stare darkened. Not embarrassment now. Vengeance. Before Harper could step away, a voice behind her spoke calmly. "Miss Collins, right?" It was Ethan. Standing now. Tall, composed, an air of authority surrounding him, like a well-tailored suit. Harper startled. "Ah, yes? I'd like a moment when you're free," he said. "Strictly professional. It concerns opportunities." Matthew's jaw dropped. Vanessa captured it all. And just like that, the story shifted again. Harper wasn't just the waitress who spoke 3 languages. She was becoming someone dangerous to underestimate. Harper slipped into the walk-in cooler the moment her break started, letting the cold air wrap around her like a shield. Only here, between the stacked crates of produce and the hum of the refrigeration unit, could she finally let the tremor in her hands show. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a hollow ache in its place. She pressed her forehead lightly against a shelf. Why did life always have to humiliate her publicly? Why did it always feel like the universe waited until she could breathe again, then pushed her back under? A notification buzzed in her apron pocket. Then another, and another. She fumbled for her phone. At first, she thought her screen had glitched. Hundreds of notifications, mentions, tags, her name everywhere, the video. Her stomach dropped. She clicked one of the reposts. There she was, face flushed, hair slightly messy from the dinner rush, standing her ground in front of a billionaire who wanted to tear her down. She expected the comments to mock her, but instead, "She's incredible." Normalize not letting rich people walk over service workers. Her accent is perfect, wow. Give this woman a scholarship. Harper's throat tightened. She wasn't used to kindness from strangers. It felt unreal, like walking into sunlight after years underground. But the fear crept in just as fast. If the video went viral, the restaurant could fire her. NYU could see it. Her financial aid office could see it. And Matthew Kingsley, the man who already looked ready to crush her, would definitely see it. The cooler door opened. It was Riley, her coworker, holding 2 steaming paper cups from the staff espresso machine. "You okay?" she asked gently. "The whole dining room is talking about you. Even table 17, the ones who tip like they're allergic to money." Harper managed a shaky smile. "I didn't mean for any of that to happen." "I know." Riley handed her a cup. "But some people deserve to be put in their place." Harper sighed. "And some people have the power to ruin lives just because they can." Riley hesitated. "Speaking of power, there's a man waiting for you in the hallway. Tall, expensive suit. Looks like he stepped out of a Park Avenue boardroom." Harper stiffened. "Matthew?" "No," Riley said slowly. "The other one. The calm one. The one who actually looks impressed by you. Ethan Brooks." Harper's heart stuttered, and for the first time that night, fear was replaced by something else possibility. Harper stepped out of the walk-in cooler, the cup of espresso warming her fingertips as she tried to steady her nerves. The hallway outside the kitchen felt unnaturally quiet, like the moment right before a storm breaks. And there, standing near the maitre d's podium, was Ethan Brooks. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't reviewing emails on a MacBook like every other finance executive in Manhattan seemed to do every spare second. He was simply waiting for her hands folded, posture calm, eyes thoughtful. "Miss Collins?" he said gently. Harper pushed a loose curl behind her ear. "Yes, Mr. Brooks, right?" He nodded once. "I didn't mean to interrupt your shift. I just wanted a moment of your time if you're comfortable." Comfortable was a stretch, but she nodded anyway. Ethan motioned toward a quieter corner of the foyer, away from the clinking glasses and murmured gossip drifting from the dining room. As they walked, Harper felt the weight of eyes on her diners, pretending not to stare. Employees whispering behind menus, and somewhere across the room, Matthew's glare burning holes through her back. When they stopped, Ethan spoke first. "I watched what happened," he said. "People like Kingsley think money grants them fluency in everything, including power." His expression hardened for just a second. "It doesn't." Harper swallowed. "I really didn't want any of that attention. I just reacted." "That wasn't a reaction," Ethan said. "That was composure, and ability, and intelligence most people at that table can't buy." The compliment made her cheeks flush. She didn't know how to respond, so she didn't. Ethan continued, "My company is launching a cross-market expansion in Europe and Asia. We're searching for a multilingual consultant, someone who can navigate cultural nuance and communication barriers. I'd like to recommend you for the role." Harper blinked so hard she almost dropped her espresso. "Me? I'm a waitress." "You're a waitress," Ethan corrected softly, "who speaks at least 3 languages fluently, possibly more. And you handled a high-pressure scenario with more professionalism than most executives I've hired." Her pulse skipped. This couldn't be real. People like her didn't get approached by CFOs offering opportunities. She folded her arms, more out of self-protection than skepticism. "I don't even have a degree yet." "Then consider this a bridge," Ethan said. "The position would pay well, enough to finish school without working double shifts." The words hit her like warm light breaking through clouds. Finish school, sleep normal hours. No more calculating which bills could wait. "But why me?" she asked quietly. Ethan's answer was simple. "Because I've built a career identifying potential, and you have it." Before Harper could respond, a sharp voice cut through the foyer. "Well, isn't this touching? Matthew." He stood a few feet away, Vanessa hovering behind him, with her phone half raised, uncertain whether to film or flee. Matthew's smile was cold, brittle. "A waitress!" He scoffed. Getting job offers from CFOs? What's next? Teaching at Harvard? Harper stiffened. Ethan stepped forward. Not aggressive, but protective. Kingsley, this doesn't concern you. Oh, it does, Matthew hissed. Because she just became my problem. And as his eyes locked onto Harper's, she realized the viral video hadn't humiliated him. It had provoked him. And the real danger was only beginning. The moment Matthew's words cut through the foyer, Harper felt the air thicken like the oxygen had been sucked out of the building. His tone wasn't loud, but it carried a certain venom that made her skin prickle. She'd dealt with rude customers before, entitled businessmen, arrogant tourists, but Matthew Kingsley, he was something else entirely. A storm disguised as a man. Ethan subtly shifted, placing himself half a step in front of her. It wasn't obvious enough to cause a scene, but it was enough to say, "You're not alone," Matthew noticed. His jaw twitched. Protecting her now, Brooks? Interesting choice. You don't even know her. I know enough, Ethan replied evenly. And what I saw was you bullying someone who didn't deserve it. Matthew laughed a sharp, humorless sound. She embarrassed me in front of key investors. You think I'm just going to let that slide? Harper's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, to hold her ground the way she had before, but the weight of the moment crushed the breath out of her. She felt suddenly small again, like the girl who grew up hiding overdue bills under textbooks so she didn't have to see them. Ethan's voice softened. Matthew, walk away. But Matthew leaned closer, lowering his voice so only the three of them could hear. Sweetheart, you have no idea how this world works. Men like me, we don't lose. And when we do, someone pays for it. Something inside Harper snapped. Not anger, but fear. A deep, gut-wrenching fear that she had stepped into a game she was never meant to play. Her palms grew clammy. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. I need to get back to work, she whispered. Ethan touched her elbow gently. Harper! But she shook her head and hurried away before her voice could break. She didn't want Ethan to see her crumble. She didn't want anyone to see it. She pushed through the staff door and stumbled into the back hallway, gripping the edge of the stainless steel counter. The tears came fast, hot, uncontrollable. Everything she had fought to hold together unraveled at once. Growing up, she'd promised herself she would never let anyone make her feel small again. Yet here she was, shaking like a child, terrified of a man who had everything and could take everything from her. Riley appeared at her side with a damp towel. Hey, look at me. What happened? Harper wiped her face, breath trembling. He's going to ruin me, Riley. He can. Men like him always can. No, Riley said firmly. He thinks he can. But you're not alone in this. That other guy, Ethan, he looked like he actually gave a damn. Harper wanted to believe that. She really did. But fear drowned out hope. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You shouldn't have embarrassed me. We'll talk soon. MK. Harper's blood ran cold. The storm had followed her into the night, and she wasn't sure she could survive the next wave. Harper didn't sleep that night. She lay on her small twin bed in her Brooklyn walk-up, staring at the ceiling while the city buzzed through the thin walls. Her phone face down on the blanket beside her felt like a ticking bomb. Matthew's message echoed in her skull. We'll talk soon. It wasn't a threat disguised as concern. It was a warning, a promise. A line drawn by a man who had the money, reach, and ego to make her pay for embarrassing him in public. By 6 a.m., Harper dragged herself into the tiny kitchen and brewed instant coffee. Her hands still trembled as she held the chipped mug. She needed to go to work, pretend nothing was wrong, pretend she wasn't terrified. A knock startled her so hard, she spilled coffee on the counter. 3 soft knocks. Not aggressive, not Matthew. She opened the door cautiously. Ethan Brooks stood there, dressed in a dark overcoat, his expression calm but edged with concern. He held 2 Starbucks cups, the cardboard holder steaming in the cold hallway air. I wasn't sure what you drink, he said quietly, so I got a caramel macchiato and a plain latte. One of them has to be close. Harper blinked. How did you find my address? You put your apartment number on the job application form you filled out last year at NYU. I called a contact. He paused. Sorry. That sounds more invasive than intended. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. She stepped aside, letting him in. The apartment was small, barely enough space for a couch and a bookshelf filled with secondhand paperbacks, like Women Who Run with the Wolves and Atomic Habits. But Ethan didn't look uncomfortable. He looked worried. You got the message, Ethan said softly. Harper nodded, hugging her arms around herself. He's furious, and he's powerful. Powerful doesn't make him untouchable, Ethan replied, and it doesn't make you powerless. She laughed weakly. You don't know him. I know men like him, Ethan corrected, and I know something he doesn't want the world to remember. Harper froze. What does that mean? Ethan took a breath, choosing his words carefully. Kingsley Capital wasn't built cleanly. Matthew made decisions, illegal ones, unethical ones that could ruin him, and someone kept records. Harper's heart thudded. Who? Ethan held her gaze. I did. Before I left the company, I copied every document I could find. I didn't have a reason to expose him then. But now? He set his coffee down on her tiny kitchen table. Now I do. Harper swallowed hard. This wasn't the twist she expected. Ethan wasn't just a calm, kind executive. He was someone who had been waiting years for the right moment to bring Matthew down. And somehow, she had become the moment. But if we use this, Harper whispered, he'll know it came from you, from me. He'll come after both of us. Ethan's voice was steady. Then we stay smart, patient, strategic. You're not fighting him alone. A strange mix of fear and hope swirled in her chest. But before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. Another message. From an unknown number. If you think last night was the end, it wasn't. Harper's hands trembled. The war had officially begun. Ethan didn't flinch at the threatening text. He glanced at Harper's phone, then calmly set his Starbucks cup beside hers. This is exactly why we have to move carefully, he said. Men like Matthew rely on fear. If you panic, he wins. But Harper was panicking. Her apartment suddenly felt too small, too exposed. She backed toward the counter, gripping its edge. I'm not built for this. I work double shifts to stay alive. I can't go to war with a billionaire. You're not, Ethan said. You're preparing to defend yourself. There's a difference. He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek black iPad, its screen glowing with encrypted folders. These files, they're enough to make the board question his leadership, enough to open investigations, enough to make him think twice about threatening you again. Harper's breath hitched. Why didn't you use this earlier? You could have taken him down years ago. Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed thoughtfully. I don't go after people unless they harm someone who doesn't deserve it. Kingsley has stepped on many, but you— His voice softened. You didn't just stand up to him. You exposed his weakness, his ego. A small, shaking laugh escaped her. That wasn't bravery. That was survival. Survival is bravery, Ethan replied. His words landed deeper than she expected, soft, steady, grounding. The kind of validation she hadn't felt since her mother passed. But before the moment could settle, Harper's phone buzzed again. This time with notifications, not threats. Hundreds of new mentions, dozens of tagged posts. A journalist from a major news page reposted the viral video with the caption, "The waitress who humbled a Wall Street titan." Harper's stomach twisted. This is getting out of control. Ethan nodded. Which is exactly why Matthew is spiraling. Viral attention is kryptonite to men who build their empires on intimidation. Harper paced the length of the tiny kitchen, barely 6 steps. What if he shows up at the restaurant again? What if he finds a way to get me fired? I can't lose this job, Ethan. I can't. He held up a hand. I already spoke with the restaurant owner this morning. She froze. You what? He's protecting you. Matthew is temporarily banned from the premises. Harper felt her knees weaken. You did that? For me? I did what was necessary, Ethan said. And what's necessary next is choosing how you want to move forward, not reacting to Matthew, acting with purpose. He slid the iPad toward her. There's a conference next week at the Plaza Hotel. Kingsley will be there presenting to international investors. If he tries to smear you, we counter with truth. Harper stared at him. You want me to show up to the plaza? In front of everyone? Ethan, I barely make rent. I don't belong in that world. He stepped closer, his voice steady. You belong anywhere your talent can reach. A lump formed in her throat. But before she could reply, her phone lit up again, this time with a different name. NYU. Department Chair. Harper, we saw the video. Can you meet with us? There may be scholarship opportunities. Her breath caught. 3 worlds were pulling her at once: fear, opportunity, and destiny. And for the first time, destiny felt louder. Harper sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the message from NYU until the letters blurred. Scholarship opportunities. The words didn't feel real. They felt like a dream whispered through static, beautiful, distant, impossible. Her financial aid was already stretched thin. The thought of actually finishing her degree without drowning in loans felt like a fantasy reserved for people with trust funds and parents who sent Christmas gifts in Tiffany boxes. But the message was real, and NYU wanted to see her. She typed a shaky reply, "Yes, absolutely. I can be there today," and immediately felt her pulse pound. She didn't have professional clothes. She didn't have time to prepare. She barely had enough money left on her MetroCard to get across Manhattan. Ethan noticed her panic as she paced the kitchen. "What's wrong? They want to meet today," Harper whispered. "The department chair?" "Ethan, I can't go looking like this." She gestured at her worn jeans and faded sweater. Ethan didn't even blink. "Get dressed. I'll take you." "I can't just show up in a CFO's car." "You think anyone at NYU cares how you get there?" he said gently. "They care about your mind, your talent." Harper hesitated, fear and hope wrestling in her chest, but she nodded. Minutes later, she sat in the passenger seat of Ethan's black Mercedes S-Class, the Manhattan skyline gleaming across the river as they crossed the bridge. She hugged her backpack to her chest, trying not to stare at the immaculate leather seats or the dashboard that probably cost more than her yearly rent. "You're quiet," Ethan said. "I'm terrified," Harper admitted. "That means it matters," Ethan replied. "And things that matter are worth walking toward even when they scare you." Her chest tightened at his words. By the time they reached Washington Square, her palms were sweating. Students in crisp coats hurried between buildings, clutching MacBooks and Kindle e-readers, laughing as if nothing in the world could touch them. Harper felt like an intruder, a ghost drifting through a life she was never meant to claim. But when the department chair Dr. Rowan stepped out of his office and extended a hand, something shifted. "Miss Collins," he said warmly, "we've seen the video. We were impressed." Harper flushed. "I didn't mean to draw attention." "Sometimes attention finds the right people," Dr. Rowan said. "Your pronunciation, your composure, these are markers of someone with exceptional linguistic aptitude." He motioned for her to sit. Ethan waited in the hallway, giving her privacy. Dr. Rowan continued, "We have a scholarship available for promising multilingual students. Full tuition. We'd like you to apply." Her breath caught. "Full tuition?" He nodded. "And given your demonstrated abilities, your chances are strong." Harper's eyes stung. She blinked rapidly, not wanting tears to fall in front of him. But then Dr. Rowan added quietly, "You should also know Kingsley Capital contacted the university this morning." Her heart dropped. "What? Why?" "They voiced concerns about your behavior." Dr. Rowan frowned. "It was unprofessional of them. And frankly, it made us more interested in your side of the story." Harper felt the floor tilt under her. Matthew was already trying to destroy her, but for the first time, someone wasn't listening to him. Someone was listening to her. Harper stepped out of Dr. Rowan's office, with her heart still thundering inside her chest. Scholarship, full tuition, a future she had never even allowed herself to imagine. But the moment she saw Ethan waiting in the hallway, hands in his coat pockets, expression tense, she knew something had shifted. "You were in there a long time?" he said gently. Harper nodded, clutching her backpack tighter. "It went better than I expected. But Matthew already contacted the university." Ethan's jaw tightened. Of course he did. They walked outside into the cold New York air, the wind slicing between the tall buildings, sending leaves spiraling across Washington Square Park. Harper felt the chill deep in her bones, not from the weather, but from the realization that Matthew wasn't acting out of embarrassment. He was acting out of retaliation. They were halfway to the car when Harper's phone vibrated. She expected another flood of notifications. Instead, it was her manager from the River Cafe. Her stomach dropped. "Harper, we need to talk. Call me back immediately." Ice spread through her veins. She dialed instantly. Her manager's voice was strained. "I just got a call from Kingsley Capital. They threatened to pull their business events from us unless we fired you." Harper felt her knees weaken. "But you said he was banned." "He is, and we're not firing you," her manager said firmly. "But you should know he's escalating. This isn't just about a video anymore." When the call ended, Harper stood frozen on the sidewalk. The city moved around her cars, honking, students laughing, a musician strumming near the fountain, yet she felt like she'd been dropped into silence. Matthew was attacking her livelihood, her education, her future. Ethan touched her elbow. "Harper, look at me." She lifted her eyes, barely holding back tears. "This is exactly what I feared," Ethan said. "Matthew's not going to stop on his own. He's going to use every connection he has until you break." "I can't lose this job," Harper whispered. "I can't lose school. I can't." "You're not losing anything," Ethan cut in. "That's why I kept the files. This isn't just ego anymore. This is targeted harassment. And if he wants a war fine, we'll give him one." Harper shook her head, voice trembling. "Ethan, exposing him will ruin his entire career." "Good," Ethan said. "It's long overdue." Before Harper could respond, a sleek black SUV rolled to the curb. The window lowered, revealing Matthew himself. His sunglasses hid his eyes, but the smirk on his lips was unmistakable. He didn't shout. He didn't threaten. His voice was quiet, controlled, terrifying. "You should have stayed in your place, Harper." Ethan stepped forward instantly. "Get out of here, Kingsley." Matthew ignored him entirely. "Now you've forced my hand." The SUV pulled away before Harper could speak, leaving behind exhaust fumes and a silence heavier than the city around them. Ethan exhaled sharply. "He's cornered. That makes him dangerous." Harper swallowed hard. For the first time, she wondered if this fight might cost her everything. News traveled faster in Manhattan's financial circles than wildfire. By the next morning, the viral video, Matthew's escalating behavior, and whisperings of internal misconduct had reached the upper floors of Kingsley Capital. When Matthew arrived at the Park Avenue headquarters, his assistant wouldn't even meet his eyes. "Sir, the board wants to see you, now." A board meeting without notice was never good. A board meeting without warning was catastrophic. Matthew straightened his tie, masking irritation with confidence. "They're overreacting. A waitress with a big mouth isn't going to affect." His assistant interrupted softly. "It's not just the video. Some files resurfaced." Matthew froze. "What files?" But she looked away. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere felt colder than the marble floors. 12 directors sat in stiff silence around a long, polished table, the Manhattan skyline glowing behind them like a wall of judgment. Papers were stacked neatly in front of each board member. Matthew recognized the formatting instantly. Leaked internal documents. Impossible. They were destroyed. He had made sure. He forced a smile. "What's this about?" The chairman, a gray-haired man with expressionless eyes, spoke first. "Your conduct has become a liability, Kingsley," Matthew scoffed. "Over a waitress?" Another board member tapped a document. "This has nothing to do with a waitress. This is about falsified compliance forms, manipulated earnings reports, And your personal involvement. Matthew's stomach twisted. This is years old. No one has access to those records. Someone did, the chairman replied, and they sent them directly to the board. Matthew clenched his jaw. Ethan! It had to be Ethan. The betrayal burned like ice. This is absurd. None of this can be verified. It can. The chairman slid a folder across the table. We traced the metadata. These files were created from your laptop, your credentials, every inch of confidence cracked. This is a witch hunt, Matthew growled. I built this company, and now you're dragging it into scandal. Another director snapped. Your behavior at the River Cafe has already reached investors. Matthew's face flushed with rage. I won't be taken down because of some waitress who knows a few travel phrases. A board member raised an eyebrow. She speaks more languages than you, and unlike you, she seems to understand professionalism. A ripple of chuckles, small, cruel, spread around the table. Matthew slammed his fist down. Enough! Security stepped closer behind him. The chairman folded his hands. Matthew Kingsley, until this matter is investigated, you are suspended from your duties, effective immediately. Matthew felt the room tilt. You can't do this. We just did. Security placed a hand on his shoulder. For the first time in his entire life, Matthew felt something he had never felt before: fear. Not of the board, not of losing power, but of the girl he had underestimated. Harper Collins. She wasn't a waitress to be stepped on. She was a variable he never accounted for. As he was escorted out, a single thought consumed him. If his empire was collapsing, he would make sure she fell with him. Vanessa Hale had never cared about ethics, but she cared about relevance. And by the time Matthew stormed out of Kingsley Capital, red-faced, humiliated, suspended, her influencer instincts were screaming one thing: get away from him. Fast. She was already at her penthouse, pacing in leggings and an oversized Dior sweatshirt, scrolling through the digital carnage. Every major business outlet was reporting Matthew's suspension. Comments flooded her feed. Isn't this the guy you were with at the River Cafe? Girl, you picked the wrong billionaire. Run! And then she saw the worst headline yet. Kingsley investigation expands after viral waitress video. Vanessa sank onto her velvet sofa, clutching her iPhone. She wasn't a villain. She was just trying to date rich and stay relevant. No one told her Matthew had skeletons stacked in his penthouse closet. A knock echoed through the room. Not a friendly knock. A demanding one. Her stomach flipped. Who is it? It's me. Matthew's voice. Vanessa froze. She didn't want to let him in, but Matthew wasn't someone you told no to without consequences. She opened the door a sliver. He pushed inside. His eyes were wild dark bags forming under them, hair disheveled, suit wrinkled for the first time since she'd met him. You posted the video, he snapped. Vanessa stiffened. No, I posted a video. I didn't know you'd go crazy at the boardroom. You ruined me, he snarled. Matthew, this is your mess, she shot back. Everyone's saying you falsified reports. People are calling you a walking SEC violation. He stepped closer, and she backed into the wall. You think this is funny? You think you'll survive this when I go down? Her voice trembled. What are you talking about? You were with me the night those documents were signed. Her blood turned cold. No, I was just at the house. I didn't sign anything. But the photos. What photos? Matthew's smirk twisted. The ones I took. You standing next to the files? Close enough to imply involvement. Vanessa felt the air leave her lungs. He had trapped her without her even realizing it. But then her phone pinged. A message from an unknown number. If he threatens you, I can help. EB. Vanessa didn't know who EB was, but she wasn't stupid. She could guess. Ethan Brooks. Matthew reached for her phone, but she hid it behind her back. Get out, she whispered. You'll regret this, Vanessa. He slammed the door behind him. Vanessa collapsed onto the sofa, shaking. She hadn't cared about Harper before. But now she understood what it felt like to be caught in Matthew's crosshairs. And for the first time, Vanessa realized she had a choice. Stay silent and go down with him, or expose everything she knew. and she knew enough to burn Matthew Kingsley's empire to the ground. Harper returned to her apartment that night completely drained. The city lights outside her window flickered against the cracked paint on her walls, casting long shadows that felt eerily alive. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her backpack onto the floor, and sat on the edge of her bed, staring at nothing. For a moment, it was quiet. Too quiet, until footsteps echoed up the stairwell, slow, heavy, purposeful. Her breath caught. No one visited her, not without texting first. She moved silently toward the door, her pulse ringing in her ears. When the footsteps stopped directly outside, her stomach twisted. She reached for her phone with trembling fingers. A text arrived before she could dial. Unknown number. You can't hide behind Brooks forever. Her heart dropped. Matthew. She backed away from the door, fear slicing straight through her ribs. She didn't know how far he would go, but after seeing him outside NYU, after hearing him say, "You should have stayed in your place," she knew he had stepped into dangerous territory. Another text came. Open the door. Harper's knees buckled. She pressed her palm over her mouth to keep from sobbing. Through the peephole, she saw a dark figure standing still, unmoving. Then a knock. Slow, deliberate, not the impatient knocking of a delivery driver or neighbor. A warning. Harper stepped back, her whole body shaking. Please go away, she whispered through the door, though the words barely came out. A moment passed. Then the figure shifted and walked away. Her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, tears spilling freely. She couldn't do this. She wasn't built for a war with a man who had millions, lawyers, power, and nothing left to lose. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a call. Ethan, she answered instantly, voice cracking. He came to my building. Ethan's tone dropped into a sharp, controlled calm she had never heard before. Lock the door, I'm on my way. Ethan, no if he sees you, Harper. He interrupted. He crossed the line. I'm not letting you sit in fear. 20 minutes later, Ethan's Mercedes pulled up outside, headlights slicing through the dark hallway window. Harper opened the door for him, and the moment he saw her pale, trembling something inside him hardened. You're not staying here tonight, he said. Pack a bag. Harper wiped her tears. Where would I even go? With me, Ethan said. I have a secured building, doorman, cameras. Matthew won't get within a mile. Harper hesitated, not because she didn't trust him, she did, but because she didn't want to drag him deeper into her nightmare. But Ethan stepped closer, his voice quiet but resolute. You didn't ask for this, and you're not facing it alone. Her chest tightened. For the first time that day, she exhaled. As she packed a small bag, just a few clothes, her old Kindle, her notebook, Ethan waited patiently by the door, scanning the hallway like a bodyguard. But as they left the apartment, Harper didn't notice the black SUV parked across the street, or the figure inside watching her every move. Matthew wasn't done. He was just beginning. Ethan's apartment overlooked Central Park, a quiet sanctuary suspended above the chaos of Manhattan. When Harper stepped inside, the warmth hit her first, soft lighting, polished wood floors, the faint smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air. It wasn't extravagant like Matthew's world, but refined, lived in, safe. Safe in a way she hadn't felt in years. You can take the guest room, Ethan said, locking the door with a code she didn't recognize. Security here is tight. Doormen watch every entrance. Cameras cover every hallway. Harper nodded, holding her small duffel close to her chest, as though it could shield her from everything outside. She still felt exposed, jittery, rewired by fear. Ethan paused. You're shaking. I'm fine, she whispered. But she wasn't. He motioned toward the couch. Sit. Just breathe for a minute. Harper sank down, elbows on her knees, face buried in her hands. I don't understand why he's doing this. I didn't ruin his life. I didn't even try to. No, Ethan said, sitting across from her. But you stood up to him, and for men like Matthew, that's unforgivable. Harper lifted her eyes. Why do you know so much about him? Why do you have the documents? Why did you leave the company?" Silence stretched for a moment, long enough for Harper to think he might not answer. Then Ethan spoke, voice low. "Because I used to be his friend." Harper blinked. She hadn't expected that. "We built Kingsley Capital together," Ethan continued. "Before he became the man he is now. Before the power consumed him." He rubbed the back of his neck. When the company grew, Matthew changed. He started cutting corners, breaking rules, pressuring people to sign off on things they didn't understand. Harper's heart tightened. "You?" "Me?" Ethan admitted. And when I confronted him about it, he didn't deny it. He threatened me, told me he'd bury me, professionally and personally. His jaw clenched, so I walked away. And I took proof with me. Harper leaned back, absorbing the weight of his confession. "You've been carrying this for years," she whispered. "Waiting for the right time," Ethan said. His gaze softened. "Then I saw what he did to you." Her breath caught. "Ethan, you're risking everything." He shook his head. "No. Matthew made his choices. I'm just giving the truth a voice." Harper swallowed hard, emotions swelling in her chest. "I don't know why you're helping me. Because you remind me of the person I wanted to be before I got swallowed by that world," he said quietly. "And because you deserve better than what's happening." She wiped a tear quickly, embarrassed. "I don't want anyone hurt because of me." "Harper, listen." Ethan leaned forward. "Matthew is spiraling. That makes him loud, careless, and visible. You're not his victim. He's making himself your evidence." Before Harper could reply, a sudden buzz filled the room, the building's intercom. Ethan stiffened. "Who is it?" he asked into the receiver. A beat. Then a voice Harper recognized chilled her to the bone. "Tell Harper I know where she is." Matthew. Even inside a fortress of security, the danger had followed her. And this time, it was standing at the front door. For a moment, everything in Ethan's apartment froze. The city noise outside, the faint hum of the heater, even Harper's own heartbeat. Matthew's voice crackling over the intercom sliced the air open like a blade. Ethan reacted first. He pressed the intercom button firmly. "You're trespassing, Kingsley. Leave before building security removes you." But Matthew only chuckled, low and taunting. "You really think a doorman is going to stop me?" Harper's stomach twisted. She covered her mouth, trying not to make a sound. She could picture him downstairs, smug, reckless, dangerous, like a predator circling prey he knew couldn't escape. Ethan clicked off the intercom and turned to her. "He can't get in. The building requires keycard access." "But he found me," Harper whispered. "Even after I left my apartment. Even here. How does he know where I am?" Ethan's jaw clenched. "He's calling every place he thinks you might go. He's desperate, and desperate men take risks." He placed a steadying hand on her shoulder. "But we are not letting him near you. Understand?" Harper nodded, though her body trembled. She felt small, but not entirely alone this time. A loud knock shook the front door. Harper flinched. Ethan stepped in front of her, voice low. "Get to the guest room, lock the door, do not open it unless it's me." She hesitated. "Ethan, go." Harper obeyed, retreating down the hallway with shaky steps. She cracked the door open just enough to see Ethan move toward the entrance, his shoulders squared, phone ready in hand not to call Matthew, but building security. Harper heard the doorman's raised voice echo from the hallway speaker. "Sir, you are not authorized to be here. Step back from the entrance." Matthew shouted back, "She's inside!" "She belongs to the intercom," abruptly cut off. Harper pressed her back to the guest room door, her breath quickening. She felt trapped between adrenaline and fear, a tightness spreading across her chest. She sank onto the edge of the bed, gripping the comforter. A soft vibration buzzed from her phone. Not a text, a video, sent from an unknown number. Her heart twisted as she tapped it open. The footage was grainy, taken from a distance, but unmistakably her. Harper, walking beside Ethan toward his Mercedes outside NYU. Matthew's SUV was parked across the street, filming them. A shaky zoom tightened on her face. The final frame froze on her expression, exhausted, unaware she was being hunted. A message appeared under the clip. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Harper felt the blood drain from her face. He wasn't just following her, he was documenting her. Suddenly, Ethan burst into the room, breath tight. Security removed him from the building. But he'll try again. Harper looked up, tears brimming. "Ethan, he's filming me." Ethan's expression shifted sharp, protective, dangerous. "Then we accelerate the plan." He grabbed his laptop, opening the encrypted folder of evidence. "Tomorrow, we take this to the authorities, to the press, to whoever will listen." Harper swallowed. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Ethan said, "because tonight proved something important." He sat beside her, voice steady. "Matthew isn't just a threat to your career, he's a threat to your safety. And that ends now." Harper exhaled shakily, but neither of them noticed the blinking red light outside the apartment window. A drone. Watching. Harper didn't sleep. She stayed on the guest room bed, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the faint red blinking light outside the window. At first, she thought it was a reflection, maybe a street light or a car passing below. But the light hovered, unmoving, watching, a drone. Her breath grew shallow. "Ethan," she whispered, voice trembling. "Ethan, come here." He rushed in within seconds, phone still in his hand. "What's wrong?" She pointed toward the window. Ethan followed her gaze and his expression darkened. He moved quickly, pulling the curtains shut and hitting the lights. "He's out of his mind," Ethan muttered. "Harper, this isn't intimidation anymore. This is stalking." Harper covered her mouth, trying not to sob. What if he gets inside the building? What if the drone isn't the only thing he's using? What if, hey? Ethan knelt in front of her, placing steady hands on her shoulders. "Look at me. You are safe here, and you are not alone." But Harper's voice cracked. "You don't understand." "He followed me, Ethan. To my apartment. To NYU. Here. How long has he been watching me?" Ethan's jaw tightened, fury simmering beneath the surface. "Too long, and it ends tonight." He stood and grabbed his laptop again. "We're reporting this. The threats, the surveillance, everything. The drone footage alone is a felony." Harper shook her head wildly. "If we report him now, he'll retaliate. Harder. He'll come after you too. He already has," Ethan said. "I'm not stepping back." But Harper felt her chest tightening, panic clawing up her throat. She stood abruptly, pacing the room in frantic steps. "This is my fault. I should have stayed quiet. I shouldn't have talked back to him. I should have just Harper." Ethan's voice cut through the spiral. "You didn't cause this." His actions did. His ego did. His corruption did. She pressed her palms to her temples, tears streaming. "I'm scared, Ethan. I'm so scared I can't breathe." He stepped forward, pulling her gently into his arms. She collapsed against him, sobbing into his shoulder. For minutes, he held her steady, warm, grounding her in the storm. When she finally pulled back, eyes red and swollen, Ethan cupped her face gently. "You're stronger than you think, but strength doesn't mean doing this alone. Let me help you." Harper swallowed. "What do we do?" Ethan opened the encrypted folder again. "Tomorrow morning, we go to the authorities. Tonight, we gather everything, screenshots, messages, the drone, the threats." And then he hesitated. "What?" she whispered. "We take this public." Harper stiffened. "Public?" "Yes. Matthew thrives in shadows. We drag him into the light." Ethan exhaled. "The press already smells blood. If they get the full truth, his crimes, the intimidation, the falsified records, he'll be finished." Harper's heart pounded. "That could ruin him." "It will," Ethan corrected. "But it could also save you." Outside, the drone drifted away, silent, eerie, as if Matthew knew they were preparing their next move. And for the first time, Harper wasn't running. She was preparing to fight. Morning came gray and heavy over Manhattan, the kind of sky that felt like it was holding its breath. Harper barely slept, every sound jolted her awake. Every shadow made her heart stutter. But when she stepped out of the guest room, she found Ethan already dressed, laptop open on the kitchen island, papers spread out in organized stacks. He looked up. Today's the day. Harper swallowed hard. The day we end him? Ethan nodded. Or the day we start to. They reviewed everything again, screenshots of the threats, timestamps proving Matthew had followed her, messages that grew darker and more unhinged by the hour. Harper stared at the evidence, each screenshot a punch to the chest. "I can't believe this is my life," she whispered. Ethan softened. "I know, but sometimes the people who start at the bottom are the ones who expose the rot at the top." When they finished compiling the files, Ethan checked his watch. "We should head out. The Plaza event starts in 2 hours." Harper blinked. "The Plaza? As in the Plaza Hotel?" "Yes. Matthew will be there. Investors will be there. And the press." Ethan slid a folder into his briefcase. "You won't be confronting him." "I will. But your presence matters, Harper. It shows you're not hiding anymore." The idea of stepping into such a high-profile environment made Harper's stomach twist. "Ethan, I don't have anything suitable to wear to the Plaza." Ethan paused, then motioned for her to follow him down the hall. He opened a door to a walk-in closet she hadn't seen before. Neatly arranged clothes, shoes, and accessories. But hanging near the front was something different. A simple, elegant black dress. Knee-length, timeless. "I bought this months ago," Ethan said quietly. "For someone I hoped I'd meet one day. Someone brave." He hesitated. "It would suit you." Harper touched the fabric's soft, steady, grounding. "Ethan, I can't wear this." "Yes, you can," he said, "because today you walk into that hotel not as a waitress, not as Matthew's target, but as the woman who refuses to be broken." Her throat tightened. "What if I'm not strong enough? You already are." By the time they arrived at the Plaza, Harper's hands were shaking again, but differently. Not with fear, with resolve. Gold chandeliers glowed overhead, marble floors gleamed, and investors in tailored suits moved like a river of wealth and arrogance. Yet the moment Harper walked beside Ethan through the opulent lobby, heads turned. Some recognized her from the viral video. Whispers followed her like a trail. That's her, the girl who spoke 5 languages. She embarrassed Kingsley. Harper kept her chin lifted, even as nerves churned inside her. Ethan led her toward the conference hall doors. "Remember," he murmured, "he expects you to cower. Prove him wrong just by being here." Before she could answer, the hall erupted in sudden noise. Matthew had entered flanked by 2 assistants, face carved with fury, eyes scanning the room like a predator searching for prey. And the moment he saw Harper, his expression shifted. Not to rage, not to arrogance, something worse. Recognition that she was no longer beneath him. She was becoming a threat. Matthew's gaze locked onto Harper with a force that made the temperature in the Plaza's grand hall seem to drop 10 degrees. Conversations faltered. Investors glanced between them, sensing tension, sensing danger, sensing the kind of scandal money couldn't silence. Ethan placed himself slightly in front of Harper, not shielding her, but anchoring her. "Stay steady," he murmured. "He can't touch you here." But Matthew didn't approach at first. He watched, calculated. His jaw flexed with the simmering fury of a man who had always controlled every room he entered and suddenly realized he no longer did. The conference moderator tapped the microphone. "Mr. Kingsley, we're ready for your presentation." Matthew turned stiffly and walked on stage. His composure was plastic, stretched thin, ready to tear. Behind him, a massive LED screen glowed with graphs and projections, his entire empire laid out in curated numbers. "Good morning," he began, voice taut. "Kingsley Capital remains." A glitch erupted across the screen. A flicker, a distortion. Then documents appeared. Real documents. The falsified reports, the manipulated statements, his signatures, his lies. The audience gasped in a collective breath. Matthew spun toward the technician booth, panicked. "Turn that off! Now!" But the moderator stepped forward, horrified. Mr. Kingsley, these files came from your internal servers. The system verified them. Harper clasped a hand over her mouth. She hadn't expected it to happen this fast. She knew Ethan planned to expose the documents, but she thought it would take hours, not seconds. Ethan leaned toward her. I didn't do this. Someone else just made their move. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the doorway behind them. Hope I'm not late. Vanessa Hale walked into the hall, heels clicking across marble, iPhone in hand, live streaming to thousands. She looked radiant, terrified, and furious all at once. Matthew's face drained of color. Vanessa, turn off that camera. No, she said simply. She stepped forward, eyes blazing. You want the truth? Here it is. He used me. He took photos to make it look like I helped him forge reports. He threatened me last night. And he's been stalking this woman. She pointed directly at Harper, because she bruised his ego. The room exploded in whispers. Matthew lunged off stage. You little security intercepted him instantly. Investors recoiled as if he were radioactive. Vanessa lifted her chin. You destroyed your own career, Matthew. All I did was stop protecting you. Harper watched in stunned silence. The woman who once filmed her humiliation, now exposing the man who orchestrated it. Matthew struggled against security, spitting venom. You think this will save you? All of you? She's nothing. A nobody waitress. Ethan stepped forward, voice ringing across the hall. That nobody waitress speaks more languages than your entire leadership team combined, and she did something you never learned to do, tell the truth. A ripple of applause began. Tentative, then stronger. Harper felt warmth fill her chest, shaky, surreal, overwhelming. Matthew roared, You'll all regret this! But no one listened. Because his empire wasn't falling quietly. It was collapsing in front of the entire financial world. And Harper Collins, once invisible, was now at the center of the moment that ended him. Security dragged Matthew toward a side exit, but he fought like a cornered animal, shouting insults that echoed off the marble walls of the plaza. Cameras flashed, investors whispered, reporters swarmed like sharks who smelled blood for the first time, and Harper stood frozen in the center of the chaos, watching the man who had terrorized her unravel in real time. Ethan placed a steady hand on her back. You did it. She shook her head. No. Vanessa did, and you did. But Ethan corrected her softly. None of this would have happened if you hadn't stood up for yourself first. Across the hall, Vanessa approached hesitant, vulnerable, no longer the flawless influencer who filmed other people's humiliation for views. Vanessa's voice cracked. I'm sorry, for everything. I didn't know who he really was until he turned on me, too. Harper studied her, expecting resentment to rise. Instead, she felt something else. Understanding. Fear recognized fear. You helped stop him, Harper said quietly. That matters. Vanessa exhaled, relief softening her shoulders. If you ever need me to testify, or go public, or anything, I will. She took Harper's hand gently. No one deserves what he did to you. Before Harper could respond, Matthew's voice erupted again. She set me up! They all set me up! 2 police officers entered through the back corridor, speaking with event security. One officer already held a printed stack of documents, Ethan's files, the drone footage, Vanessa's statement. They approached the struggling CEO, Mr. Kingsley. The officer announced, You're being detained for questioning in relation to multiple allegations, financial misconduct, harassment, and unlawful surveillance. Are you kidding me? Matthew roared. This is a joke. She's nothing. But when he turned to point at Harper, his voice faltered. Because Harper wasn't shrinking. She wasn't cowering. She was standing straighter than she ever had, surrounded by people who finally saw her. Not as a waitress, not as a victim, but as someone who refused to be broken. Reporters pivoted toward her instantly. Miss Collins, did you know about the documents? How many languages do you speak? Are you pressing charges? How did this start? The noise swelled. Harper swallowed hard, and for a moment, panic flickered until Ethan stepped beside her, subtly shielding her from the crush of cameras. "She's not answering questions today," he said firmly. "This has been traumatic enough." But Harper gently touched his arm. "It's okay." She faced the reporters, voice steady despite the tremble in her hands. "I didn't want any of this," she said softly. "I just wanted to do my job. But when someone abuses power when they hurt people because they think they can get away with it, someone has to speak up." Flash after flash illuminated her face. Harper continued, "I'm not special. I'm not rich. I'm not powerful. I'm just someone who refused to stay silent, and no one, no matter how much money they have, gets to decide my worth." A murmur of admiration rippled through the crowd. Police escorted Matthew out the side entrance, shouting, furious, defeated. And in the gleaming gold light of the plaza's grand hall, Harper felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not fear, not shame. Power. Ethan leaned close, his voice low. "Harper, this is your turning point." She breathed in slowly, letting the truth anchor her. "No," she whispered. "This is my beginning." 2 weeks passed, and Manhattan slowly shifted from winter gray to the soft blush of early spring. The scandal that once dominated every headline began settling into legal proceedings, court dates, and formal investigations. Matthew was officially removed from Kingsley Capital, facing charges that made even the boldest investors step back with caution. But Harper was stepping forward. Her NYU scholarship had been formally approved, full tuition. Her acceptance letter sat framed on the small desk in Ethan's guest room, her temporary refuge turned safe haven. Every morning, she walked through Washington Square Park, with her books tucked under her arm, a warm latte in hand. For the first time, she wasn't rushing between shifts, juggling exhaustion and survival. She was learning, expanding, growing. Her professors treated her like a rising mind, not a girl with calloused hands and a tired smile. One afternoon, as she sat on the steps of the fountain reviewing notes for her linguistics seminar, Ethan approached with 2 coffees and that familiar calm smile. "How does it feel?" he asked, handing her a cup. Harper looked at the NYU buildings, glowing in the afternoon sun. "Like I finally belong somewhere." "You always belonged," Ethan replied. "Life just took a while to catch up." She smiled, warmth blooming in her chest. But the real turning point came 2 weeks later, when NYU invited her to speak at a public panel on language, power, and social justice. Harper nearly refused old insecurities, whispering she wasn't worthy. But Ethan squeezed her hand and said, "You have something to say, and people want to hear it." The auditorium buzzed with students, faculty, and reporters. Harper stood behind the podium, the same girl who once hid in a walk-in cooler crying, now facing a room full of people waiting for her voice. She spoke slowly at first, telling her story growing up with nothing, discovering languages in a public library, working until her bones ached, and facing a man who tried to use power to crush her. She didn't dramatize, she didn't embellish, she simply told the truth. Then she ended with a sentence that felt like it rose from the deepest part of her. "Strength isn't the absence of fear. Strength is choosing to stand even when fear tells you to kneel." The crowd rose to its feet. A standing ovation. Harper felt tears sting her eyes, but this time, they weren't from fear or exhaustion. They were from healing. After the event, Ethan joined her backstage. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her with quiet pride, the kind that didn't need explanation. "You did it," he said softly. "No," Harper corrected. "We did." Outside, the Manhattan skyline glowed like a promise. Matthew was gone. Her past no longer chained her. Her future had finally opened its doors. And Harper Collins, a waitress who once believed she belonged at the bottom, stepped into her new life with dignity, purpose, and a heart finally free. It wasn't just a happy ending. It was a beginning she had earned. You're still here with me, right? If you've stayed until this moment, then something in Harper's journey touched you in a quiet, personal way. And I want you to pause with me, just for a breath, and look at this story not as drama, but as a mirror. Because in life, we all face people who try to make us feel small. We all feel fear. We all doubt ourselves. Yet Harper reminds us of something Marcus Aurelius once wrote. You have power over your mind, not outside events. She couldn't control Matthew. She couldn't control the world, but she could control her courage. And that changed everything. Maybe right now you're holding your own fear. A job that drains you. A person who underestimates you. A dream you're scared to chase. But like the Stoics say, the obstacle is the way. The very thing that hurts you may be the thing that frees you. So if this story touched your heart, even a little, let us know. Like this video, share it with someone who needs strength today. And subscribe because together, we are building a place where stories heal, lift, and remind us who we are becoming. You were not alone, and your new beginning may be closer than you think.